McNair gives it to George, running right up the middle. Touchdown! Titans! There are no flags on the field! It's a miracle!
Safety, now you're one-on-one with it.
Shows why he's the man. In trouble. Sack!
Ladies and gentlemen, Titan Nation, welcome back to another episode. Today, my guest is no other than the man himself. We have Eric King in the house. How you doing, Eric?
My man, what's up, Big Kev, man, Mr. Titan? I'm here. What can I say? I'm doing well.
Let's do it, man. Again, appreciate you coming on. Let's talk a little bit about yourself. Again, formerly, you came into the league in 2005. The Bills picked you up, right? Talk a little bit about completely different fan base and organization. Can you tell me a little bit about that situation and actually getting into the league with the Bills?
Well, I just remember that day, man, when I got that phone call on that second day. I saw this crazy zip code come through, area code. Not zip code, area code come through. It was like 716 or something like that. I'm like, where could this be from? Like, I don't even know what this is. Boom, I answer the phone. It's Mike Malarkey on the phone, man. He's telling me right now that he's putting in my name. I think it was number 152 of the draft, 5th round. I'm going to be a Buffalo Bill. And, I was just elated, just to get the opportunity to put on a NFL jersey.
Yep.
And get out there and perform was just a great thing for me, especially coming from Wake Forest, being from Baltimore, so not too far from home. Actually, my drive from college in Baltimore, from Baltimore to Wake Forest was about 6 hours. My drive from Baltimore to Buffalo was about 6 hours. So
Nice.
it is 6 hours in the opposite direction.
Okay.
Really cold, of course, but it was nothing like putting on a helmet, running out of that tunnel. Great fans, great city. Got nothing great things to say about the Buffalo Bills.
Nice. And let's talk a little bit about your history, as in growing up and stuff. Growing up, you said, like in Baltimore, and how was growing up in Baltimore, and how did it kind of transform you or send you to the direction of playing for the NFL?
Well, Baltimore is a tough, gritty city, man. So I think to make it out in any sport at any level, whether it be basketball or football, track, any sport, you got to go through the ringer. You're going to have to play through some cold weather. You're going to have to play through some tough times. Just the aura of the city and the makeup of people in the city. It comes with grit. It comes with tenacity. It comes with effort, and as you know, I'm not the biggest guy in the world. So I learned early that in order for me to get to where I got to go, I got to scratch, claw, fight, my tail off, so competing was something that I developed when I was coming up in Maryland. I was able to go to a good private school, McDonough School, one of the best schools in the Baltimore area. Like I said, from there, I was able to earn a scholarship to Wake Forest and begin my trek. But it all started with the inner city youth programs that I was a part of, that my mom and dad put me in, whether it be basketball programs, whether it be the inner city Cecil Kirks and the Bentlows, as well as the Randalltown Optimist football team that I played for in Little League. I played with some great athletes, some great teammates, and some of the guys that I played with early on, like Dominic Foxworth, like a Vincent Fuller. We all came through the same grassroots programs.
Okay.
So we were able to reconnect once we got older, and all get drafted. So it's a city of grit, and it's a city of fight. So that's kind of what my makeup was, and how I was able to pull that all together and get to where I am today.
And it kind of showed what you had on the field. That's kind of how you played, right?
Pretty much. At least that's what I try to do.
Absolutely, man. Absolutely. That's cool. Now let's talk about, going to college and going to Wake Forest. Was that your initial plan? Was there any other schools that you kind of had in mind? And what did you go to school for?
For me, it was about getting an opportunity to play the ACC or the Big Ten or the Big East at that time.
Yeah.
So Big East, Big Ten, ACC. It was like I threw all my marbles at it
Mhm.
in terms of wanting to get a scholarship to one of those schools. Maryland came on late, Virginia Tech came on late, West Virginia came on late, but Wake Forest was there from the beginning to the end.
Okay.
Coach Caldwell recruited me as well as Jim Grove. Both staffs recruited me. Me and my dad went for an official visit down to Wake Forest 2 times, and we were able to just feel real comfortable with the situation. And for me, that was the best situation.
Mhm.
Wake Forest was a lot like my high school by being private, smaller community, smaller classroom size. That's something that worked for me. So I was able to excel due to that.
Gotcha. And you majored for what?
I majored in communications.
Communicate.
So
Okay.
got my degree
Okay.
I got my degree within 4.5 years. To this day, I utilize some of those skills in terms of public speaking, in terms of just when coaching, just being able to interact with different people, different races, different nationalities. That's something I've been able to do, and that's something that helps me in what I do today in terms of working with the youth, as well as working in the real estate realm.
And you can definitely tell that you have a way with words and just the way you kind of like just come across. You can tell that you've been very well educated in the communication world, man. You got
Thank
yourself.
you. I appreciate that,
it,
kid.
sometimes it's hard, especially with these interviews and stuff. Some people are
Yeah.
like, "Oh, you make it look like it's easy and stuff." And sometimes I stuttered in my words. Sometimes what I want to say, I get stuck, and I'm like, "Wait, what was I wanting to say?" And I kind of fumble, and I kind of like start trending, or like the same thing with questions. Like instead of asking it like a basic question, I have a tendency every time I watch an interview when I do this. I'm like, man, why do I ask an interview? I ask a question, and it's like I'm answering your question at the same time. I'm just letting you answer. I continue. I don't know why, man, but like with time, eventually I'll get it. But it's hard sometimes, man.
Yeah, just let it flow, just
Yeah,
relax and let it flow.
that's
That's what
that's
I've
it,
learned.
man. All right. So talking about the Bills, talk to me about your time with the Bills, and then eventually what happened after that.
Well, I spent one season in Buffalo,
Mhm.
and then we had a coaching change. But before the coaching change, I came in with the Malarkey coaching staff. I was able to compete early on special teams,
Mhm.
and then after the fourth game of the season, I was able to start at the nickel. So I had pretty good production playing the nickel throughout that season. Had a solid amount of tackles,
Mhm.
some PBUs, didn't have any picks, but I worked my tail off. I felt like I felt like I got better. I felt like I was developing. I felt like I could definitely develop and find a niche at that nickel position.
Okay.
It was something new to me because I was in college. I always played on the outside. I always played corner. I never had played nickel or safety until I got into the NFL. So it was new for me. But I was able to excel that first year. Unfortunately, our team didn't do so well,
Mhm.
which caused our coaching staff to get fired. They brought in a new coaching staff with Dick Geron, and things didn't work out in terms of some of the draft picks that they wanted to bring in terms of some things that were going on with me. Hurt my back, missed some of training camp, and
Mhm.
that's never good when you got a new coaching staff coming in. You're not injured, you're not ready to go. If you're not able to perform, you can't make the club in a tub.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I learned that early on. Got released. The next day, I got a call from Jeff Fisher, and I was in Tennessee. The first thing that Jeff Fisher said to me, and I never forget this, I answered the phone. Again, I saw an area code that I didn't know. 615, right? I had never been to Tennessee before then.
Uh-huh.
And answered the phone call, and there was Jeff Fisher on the other line. He said, "Welcome home." So I never forget that, man. And when I got to Tennessee and Nashville, that's what I felt. I felt like it was home.
Nice. And it's pretty, like I said, it's you hear all these stories about kind of certain players that, don't get drafted by us or don't get drafted by us. And it's crazy to hear their stories and kind of like you said, Jeff called you and said, "Hey, welcome home." And that right there kind of just it was like almost a security blanket, right?
Oh yeah, it was reassurance. Also that was the first time in my life in football where I had been rejected. you
Okay.
know. So in dealing with that, I had to go back to my foundation. I had to go back to my grassroots. I had to dig a little deeper. I had to work a little harder. It was eye-opening experience for me. It made me realize that, it's one thing to get into the NFL, and it's another thing to stay there.
Yep.
A lot of these young guys don't understand that. It's hard to get there, but if you want to make it 1, 2, 3, 4 years, and at least for that, so where you can get a pension, that's
Mhm.
pretty tough. That's why the numbers are what they are. If you want to make it over that point, to the 6 year mark, to the 7 year mark, 8 year mark, 10 year mark,
Yeah.
if you get to the 10 year mark, you're a pretty phenomenal player. However you slice it, you
Yeah.
understand? Mm-hmm.
And talking about that, and you said you had to kind of go back and go back to your roots. How was that for you mentally? Like, because that could be really, especially coming, you just got into the league, and then all of a sudden the team that just drafted you is now letting you go. How did that do for you emotionally and mentally?
It was tough. It was a lot of questions. It was a lot of questions that I had. It was a lot of questions that I had for God. Like, God, you graced me with this ability, this talent. You allowed me to get all the way right here, and then after the first year, boom, I'm done. And I knew that, like I said, I got that phone call the next day.
Hmm.
Thank goodness I had a great agent in Todd France that worked hard for me during that time. And I remember that day. I remember going back to my apartment in Orchard Park, and I spent the night, and I just said, God, if and when you give me that next opportunity, you know, I'm not going to get cut. I'm going to work my tail off. I'm going to do all of the dirty work. I'm going to be the best player that I know that I can be, and perform at the highest level that I could possibly perform at. And when I went to the Titans, I didn't get cut. So I guess it worked out.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I agree with you on that one, definitely, and it showed, man. I'm like I said, I love hearing stories like that, and I'm obviously glad it worked out. But it's just so interesting, coming, getting to the Titans. What was your, I guess, your thought process once you got to Tennessee?
Well, here I am in a new environment.
Hmm.
I didn't know too many players on the team. Vincent Fuller, I grew up with. He was already starting nickel there. Virginia Tech grad, great player as well. I knew of Pac-Man Jones just because. Who didn't know of Pac-Man
Yeah.
Jones? Top rated corner coming out of our class that year. Keith Bullock, of course, great friend of mine and one of the best Titans linebackers. So I just was getting in the mix. Anytime when you're the new guy and you're
Mhm.
coming in, you got to stake your claim.
Yep.
You have to develop trust. You have to do the dirty work. You can't come in thinking that you're all that. You have to come in with a humble mind, a humble soul. And so that's how I approached the situation. I respected everybody around me. Everybody respected me as well.
Mhm.
Like I said, I felt at home in terms of the network. Steve Waterson, who was our strength coach at the time, I felt like I improved the most in terms of my strength, endurance, speed, and abilities while I was in Tennessee as well.
Okay. And I had Coach Watterson on, and he he's an interesting character. He's funny. He's a good guy. He's a really good guy.
Yeah.
And
He's one of the best strength coaches I've ever had in my life.
there you go. I gotta send it. I have his number. I'm gonna
Yeah,
send him this clip so he
for
knows.
sure,
You
for
know.
sure. Mhm.
Um. Now getting into with the Tennessee Titans. You said you grew up with Vincent Fuller. Was that someone that you just kind of gravitated toward? Like you said, you guys
Well, it
all
was
to eventually get in there, right?
well. I mean, that was pretty easy. I mean, we played little league together. So we came up through the ranks.
Okay.
So even giving him that phone call, he was the first person to give me the phone call and say, "Hey, congratulations. Let me help you out.
Mhm.
Let me get you situated in Nashville. These are the do's and don'ts.
Mhm.
This is how we're operating here. And kind of just put me on. Welcome me in with open wings but it was time to compete.
Yeah.
And our whole room was full of guys that could play each and every Sunday.
Yeah.
So you had to compete your tail off. Your Ronaldo Hills and your Cortland Finnegans and 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 see Hope and guys. It was like iron sharpening iron in that room. It's probably one of the best DB rooms I'd ever been in.
Definitely. Is there anyone that you kind of gravitated to kind of learn their game from that you kind of watched on the team?
Well, I mean, I used to always, I just admired Pat Man so much.
Okay.
In terms of one of the things that I admired about Pat Man so much was his confidence.
Okay.
His confidence just oozed out.
Yeah.
I've never seen anybody probably in my life that was as confident as Pat Man was. And from him, I was able to learn that and take that from him and, just kind of put it into my life and into my game and some of the things that I wanted to do. And I just realized that, he was so talented, even though he had things going on in his personal life and might have gotten a little trouble off the field, to see him and to watch him play, when those lights came on he's pretty dynamic.
Yeah, absolutely.
Mhm.
Now talking about Tennessee, um, finally, this is something I always wanted to ask, and I never. Now, when you get traded or you get cut and you go to do you automatically you get a spot in Nashville? Like, okay, hey, now we're gonna go. We got to go buy a house in Nashville now, or we got like, how does that work? Or do you stay locally and then you go in the off season? I mean, during the season, and you get like maybe a little apartment. How does that work, man?
Bro, let me tell you,
Yeah, what'd you do?
like I said, I was in Orchard Park one day.
Okay.
I
Uh-huh.
got the phone call the next day. I had to leave all of my apartment. I had to leave all of my clothes and everything, my car and everything at the apartment. I
Uh-huh.
flew down to Tennessee the next day. I think the teams give you a week or 2 weeks where they put you up in a hotel on them.
Okay. Okay.
Um, I flew my dad up to Buffalo. Him and a buddy of his drove my truck down with all of my stuff loaded inside of it. So during the course of those 2 or 3 weeks, I was able to find an apartment, and I just did the basic stuff. So got me a little apartment, something that wasn't too expensive, something that was cost effective. Um, at that time as well, I didn't plan on getting cut again, but I know that there's a possibility that something like that could happen.
Yeah.
So I didn't want to spend too much money in terms of buying a place or buying a condo or anything like that, or buying anything too nice. I wanted to kind of hold on to my money and put my mind in getting into that organization and doing the best that I could possibly do.
Gotcha. Gotcha.
So that's kind of how it works.
Okay.
Now, if you're a draft pick, like say for instance, you're a first round draft pick,
Yeah.
it's a little different for you. You're probably able to purchase a home or because you're gonna be there for at least
For a while,
four
right? Yeah.
years.
Yeah.
Yeah, at least on the low end. On the high end, you could spend half or most of your career there.
Mhm.
So it's different for every player. Of course, every player doesn't get paid the same allotment or the same salary. So to each his own.
Yeah. Yeah. Definitely. Now, in your with your time in Tennessee, is there a certain game, certain memory that kind of comes into fruition that you always remember or that you can come up with that?
Yeah, I would say for me it would be when we played the Houston Texans at home. I believe this was 2009 or so, and this
Mhm.
was during our 12-0. Was that our 12-0 season? Was that
Uh,
2000? What was that? 2008
yeah, I think
when we went.
yeah, it was '08. Yeah.
So during that course of time, we played Houston Texans at home. Uh, Nick Harper ended up going down with an ankle injury. I had to come in, and when I had to come in, it was fourth quarter, third, fourth quarter.
Mhm.
Houston was trying to close out the game, and they tried to close it out on me literally, by going to Big Johnson, Andre Johnson, and I was able to make a couple plays during that series, and ended up breaking up one in the end zone and kind of sealing the deal for
Mhm.
for the Titans that particular week. And I raised a lot of eyebrows. Um, Schwartz came down and he was like, "Man, I didn't deny you not one bit. I knew that you were going to be able to make the plays when we put you in there. We thought that we might have had to roll the coverages towards you and put you in cover two so we could put somebody behind you. But once you got in on that first couple of reps, we knew you were ready to go. So we just called the game how we needed to call the game. So it let me know that they had confidence in me.
Mhm.
I was able to get on Sports Center and do my little thing, jump up in the crowd, smack a couple fives. But it was important because we closed out the game, we finished,
Mhm.
and I got the opportunity that I wanted to get to showcase my talent. And then from then, that's when I really started to get an opportunity at the nickel, really started to get opportunity at the corner outside of what I was doing in my special teams.
Gotcha, gotcha. Now, as a corner, if you could explain to someone basic that maybe not knowledge, it has some knowledge of football, what would be your best, I guess, advice for another former corner that's, what you would do or how you would see the field when the defense comes on? Like, what's the first thing you're looking for? What's the second thing? And this and that, kind of, if you could break that down.
Well, first and foremost, you look to the sideline, right? So if I'm out on the field, I want to look to the sideline because I want to look to the sideline to get the play. Now, usually as a corner, as a safety,
Mhm.
we would have signals. We would already know our calls, so I wouldn't have to go to the huddle.
Okay.
So, and I didn't want to go to the huddle if I didn't have to. Now at nickel, I would have to be in the huddle. Now nickel also I will be traveling depending on depending on the coverage, depending on if we're man to man. I could be coming over depending on motion.
Hmm.
So those things, getting the play call, understanding where you have to line up, and then from there it's just taking a couple deep breaths, relaxing, getting the play call, understanding what you see in front of you, and from film study during through the week,
Hmm.
um, your ability to diagnose and understand what's going on will be from your film study and your preparation previously. Once you understand those things and you got those things rolling, now that enables you to be quick on your feet. That enables you to not think but react because this is not a thinking man's game. You have
Yeah.
to react to what you see, and then you'll be ready to go and make a play. So there's a couple things that you got to do in terms of that checklist is concerned.
Gotcha. And how long, say, for like the playbook and stuff like that? How long did you guys do for like watching film and stuff? How long were those? And did it break it down for every single player, or is it basically just like an hour? Like, hey, this is what they do. This is their scheme for every team.
No, it's pretty intense.
Yeah.
We have our own meetings in terms of what we do with the staff and in terms of what we do with the organization. And then we have our personal meetings. You should always be watching film if you're playing football. You should be watching film in the morning. You should be watching film at night. The more film study that you can digest, the more film study that you can break down, the better off you will be. The more plays you will be, the more plays you will make. One thing about this league is everybody's talented. The only thing that's everybody's big, everybody's fast, everybody's agile. The only thing that separates one guy from the next is their ability to decipher what the play is, their ability to see it before it happens, trust their intuition, and make the play. Okay, that's very important. The guys that are able to do that most of the time are the guys that get the big, big, big money. Okay, guys that do this some of the time, maybe so, and the guys that can't do that as much probably won't be around too long.
Interesting. That's always okay. I get that makes sense. I mean, it makes perfect sense, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um,
It seems pretty
like
like light
yeah,
and
it's like
easy,
sword, yeah, but it's not.
but in terms of the mental capacity of what you're taking in and what you're digesting and able to regurgitate or see and learn on the fly,
Mhm.
everybody learns differently. Some people learn through film. Some people learn by motion, by actually doing it. Some people got to be whipped a couple times to learn and get the experience. Oh, okay, that's not what I should have did. This is
Yes.
how I should go about it. The thing about the NFL is you don't get too many of those opportunities to lose.
It's very quick. It's unforgiving sometimes, right?
Very much so.
Now, if you could describe your experience and with Jeff Fisher and how the type of coach he was.
Man, I got great things to say about Jeff Fisher. He's a player's coach. He's a Cali kid. Literally. He's laid back. He's more soft spoken. You know, he would speak up when we needed to be spoken to.
Mhm.
But he believed in his staff. He believed in the product that he put out, and he believed in his teammates. I remember him telling some of us. I remember him telling us through the course of my experience there in time in Tennessee was, when he first got there, he had some guys that couldn't play in the league.
Mhm.
By the time he was finished at in Tennessee, he felt like any player he picked up, he could put out there and play because they had done such a good job of the evaluations, understanding what guys need to be fit in what places. And we had a lot of success the time that we were in that I was in Tennessee. We went to the playoffs several years in a row. We had some great draft picks and guys like Lindell White and Chris Johnson and some other guys and VY. This is when VY was during the height of his career as well. So he was able to put together and amass a great team, a great nucleus, and we believed in him.
Hmm. And that comes with, right, with like team chemistry and talking about team chemistry, right?
Mhm.
Um, how do you build that chemistry? You said that you had, different signals, especially the guys in the backfield, right? So what were some of the signals, and is it something that was passed on from the team, or was like each player had their own thing, like, yo, hey, this is what we're gonna do if, this guy comes this way?
Well, one of the things that make a good team, and one of the things that make good teammates, are the fact that you hang out with guys.
Hmm.
Meaning, like you spend time with them. Like I said, we would spend extra time in the weight room.
Okay.
We would spend extra time in the film study. When the coaches weren't there, we would do extra film study. We would gather up at C. Hope's house and do film study. We would gather up at Michael Griffin's house and do film study. So we were all in lock and step. So that way, whoever was in the game, we were able to, kind of have that intuition and understanding of what the calls might be, what we're looking for, what we're trying to do, and having each other's back. Especially with the defense that we played, that Jeff Schwartz had in terms of that cover four kind of 4-3 type of defense. There's opportunities for you to make plays, but you guys have to be in sync.
You have
And
to
so a
be.
lot of plays are made because we understood where we needed to be, when we needed to be there, and how we could make that play. But that's through unity. That's through working together. That's through the film study. That's through just another thing about Nashville. You
Hmm.
know, Nashville's a fun city, but it's not a Miami.
Yep.
It's not a New York.
Yeah.
It's not a Atlanta. So with that, guys are able to go out and have fun and have a good time, but not get off the beaten path too far, where you
Mhm.
might in a major city, where you can kind of round the posse together and stay a little bit more focused, a little bit more locked in. That's what a place like Nashville allows you to do.
Gotcha. Gotcha. Um, let's talk a little bit about pressure situations, and so I like the mental aspect of the game, especially um each position. Obviously, they have to have their mindset. But if for you, how do you mentally prepare for crucial plays in high pressure situations? Like saying you said you jumped into the third or fourth quarter of the Texans game. Mentally, you have to be alert. You got to be ready to go, right? I'm assuming. Like it's kind of not like you just hanging out.
Well, that's what the summer days go for.
Okay.
That's what the early mornings are for. The 5 a.m.s, the 6 a.m.s, the stuff that nobody sees, right? The
Mhm.
hard work that's put in, like in the hours when nobody's really doing that type of work, that's when all of that is built up. So now when I get out into this pressure situation, when I'm in the gym at 5, 6 in the morning, or when
Mhm.
I'm working out on the field late at night, and I'm the last person out there, that's what I'm thinking about. Being in that pressure packed situation, having to understand that at some point in time, I'm gonna be out on the field, the lights are gonna be on, and all of these drills, all of these weights I lifted, all of this running I did, that's when it has to kick in. That's when I have to be fully locked in and focused. So I think your preparation is everything. Your preparation allows you to have peak performance.
Gotcha.
If you're not preparing the proper way, if you're not watching film, if you're not eating properly, if you're not putting the right things in your head as well as your body in terms of visual visualization, dreams, things of that nature, compiling all of that and utilizing that when you get into those situations,
You play.
that's what allows you to prepare, or you won't be prepared. You won't be able to do that. That's for sure. So it's a
Now,
culmination of things.
I see that, and it's crazy to because you could basically take that sample and inject it into everyday life, right? It's nice and simple. Like you could really do that. Now, when you talk about reading the offenses and stuff and dealing with QBs, what is
Mhm.
one QB that you would say was maybe not the hardest to read, but the hardest to go against? Who would you think?
Probably Peyton Manning.
That's crazy.
You know,
It's so funny though because I had Mike Griffin on, I had Bernard Pollard, and GMAC. They said the same thing, and you know what? It's like a question that maybe I shouldn't even like ask anymore because it's like everyone's like, yeah, it's Peyton. It's definitely
you know,
Peyton.
I would say again, being in Buffalo, I played against Tom Brady.
Hmm.
So I remember being on the field in Buffalo playing nickel versus Tom Brady and him literally talking smack to the defense.
Wow.
Like that's how ultra competitive he is. Now, there's not too many times when you're in a NFL game where the loudest person talking is the quarterback to the opposing team.
Yeah.
That takes heart, that takes balls. Let's just say that.
Yeah.
So to see that fire and grit in Brady,
Hmm.
it was something special. And ideally, that's part of the reason why he is what he is today, because of that fire, because of that grit, because of that heart. You
Hmm.
know, we all know Brady didn't have a massive amount of talent, but
No.
it was what he had between the ears that took him to the next level. Another thing about Peyton Manning was that's what took him to the next level too, was what he had between the ears. And he was able to manipulate, move so fast, understand where he's going with the ball. Just a real student of the game. And,
Hmm.
and and when your quarterback's a real true student of the game, plus his dad played. He comes from a football family. You can see that in his abilities and how he approaches the game as well.
Definitely. And then it's so crazy. Like I had Donnie Nicky on and he was like, yeah, they would have to
It's my guy.
yeah, Donnie said that like you would have to completely not be in a certain stance because he already knew what the defense was throwing at you and stuff like that. It's impressive. That's wild. That must kind of be frustrating as well, right? As a defensive player, just to to not be able to pick this guy's brain and stuff and get him because that would piss me off. I mean, he pissed me off and I watched him.
Well, I think he pissed us all off when we lost to him. And,
Yeah.
we were too busy trying to piss him off by whipping his butt. But you know,
Let's talk about um individual player, wide receivers.
mm.
Favorite wide receiver to play against, hardest wide receiver you ever had to go against.
I would probably have to say, being as though that I was a Detroit Lion after I was a Tennessee Titan,
Yeah.
Megatron Calvin Johnson might be the best receiver that I ever seen in person,
Yeah.
up close, in front, and with the capabilities that he displayed. Running a 4.3 at 6'5", 235, 240 pounds. I mean,
That's
he's as big as a tight end. To see when that ball was in the air in terms of the deep ball and how he could pull away from defenders. I mean, even other 4-3 defenders. He just, because of that stride being so long and being so powerful, in the way he ran,
Mhm.
just it transcended the game to a certain degree.
Yeah.
There haven't been too many receivers that can do what he can do, and he cut out early. He retired early. So imagine if he would have met his full potential in terms of his playing years and what he could have did. Let alone he get with an organization that had a winner, where you get more of a spotlight and where you're able to have an opportunity to maybe even take it to the Super Bowl. So he didn't get that opportunity, but for me, that might be the best wide receiver I've ever seen.
Now, playing against a wide receiver, like what happens and how do you adjust your game or what do you do if, you know, the reach is there or the height advantage? Like you said, you weren't the tallest person, um, taller than me, but I'm just saying, like, you know, how do you approach that? Like, what do you do in that? Like, how do you shut them down?
Well, I mean, in any instance, and for any player, you have to use what works for you. So,
Okay.
for instance, the smaller guys are probably a little quicker, a little bit
Hmm.
more lighter on the feet. Change of direction is probably pretty at high level. So you have to utilize those things, maybe let's say pre-snap, or like maybe showing them one thing and then giving them another thing. Getting up under receivers, getting into their chest. One thing that I've learned just being a DB coach and being a player, being a former player, being a DB coach and being a D coordinator is
Hmm.
when a tall receiver is here, there's
Hmm.
an opportunity that they will come down with the ball. They
Yep.
have to. And it's something that you utilize called the glove hand, where if I'm a receiver and I catch it here, if I catch it up here, as a DB, I go straight through the hands.
Gotcha.
So I don't rake one hand because guys are strong enough to
Just
catch it with one hand. I go actually through both hands, okay? Or go through the hand which has the ball. Up, it's more of a punch.
gotcha.
So, you know, for most of us, you know,
That's what you got.
that's what you have to do. You can't jump with him. I can't jump with a Megatron. I can't jump with an Andre Johnson. So I have to utilize my quickness and speed at the beginning, and then I have to be able to play the ball through their hands, not necessarily through my hands. Now, if I have an opportunity to make a pick, or we have an opportunity to get our hands on the ball, that's something different. Other than that, utilizing the glove hand is what a DB can utilize to finish and win when playing against bigger size receivers.
Gotcha. And I'm assuming it's all timing too, right? You're
Oh, it
watching.
has to be. Oh, this is something that has to be practiced. This is something that has to be coached. This is something that has to be seen on film, done the right way, so that you understand how to do it. Because it's techniques to everything. You know, the fan might not understand that or fully be aware of that, but these techniques are worked on day after day. You know, there's just a drill where we have a receiver catch the ball and we just go straight through the hands. So it's timing. It could be through the jump, timing to jump up the right way as well.
Absolutely.
Or it could be when they come back down with the ball. Because see, that's what people have to understand as a DB. You always have the finish. How many times have you seen a receiver catch the ball, feel like they're almost done, or even bring it all the way in, and the last second the DB rakes the ball out? He might even have been beat for 2 to 3 steps. But in the motion of him catching the ball, he has now caught up to the receiver. Now you can still have the finish. So it's not over till it's over.
Gotcha. That's interesting. I've always thought of that, like, because again, I never played DB or anything like that, so it was always interesting to hear this perspective of that, and especially, you know, your coaching and stuff and doing and all that stuff. So that's pretty interesting. What would you say would be um your best advice for someone that's maybe coming up from college, gonna get into the NFL or looking to get in the NFL as a DB? What would be your best advice to give them? Especially all the things you learned now, right?
Stay focused. Remove all distractions. And when I say remove all distractions, if family's a distraction, you have to remove yourself. If going out with the boys and having a good time and doing a couple things that you know might be a little questionable, leave it alone. Keep it to a minimum. The life expectancy and the time that you have to play this game is very, very short compared to the full life extent. So with that time, the more focused you can be, the more intact that you can be, the less distractions that you can have from the outside world, the better off you can be focused on your game. It's a lot easier said than done, you know, but what I've learned is, and even now on the coaching side, the guys that get by and get through the furthest are the ones that work the hardest, not the most talented.
Okay.
And are the ones that are the most focused about what they're trying to accomplish and what they're trying to do. So that means I'm putting in extra time. That means I'm putting extra work. That means I am completely putting this first and nothing else is coming before that. Okay, that's really important. In today's day and age, we got social media, we got phones, we got iPads, we got this, we got that. We make a play, we think we're the best thing since sliced bread. You know, from the cloth that I'm cut from, it's make a play today. Okay, make another play. Okay, go make another play. Okay, go make another play. Okay, keep racking up the plays on top of each other, and then that's how you build up, and that's how you become all that God has called you to be in this sport.
There we go. Well, that's great. I like to hear that, especially like you said, this day and age, man. It's so much, you know,
everything's grabbing your attention.
Yep.
You know, what if I'm playing today and you didn't like something I did, and then I go on a Twitter beef in a Twitter war with you, like that's taking time away from me being all that I can be, brother. I don't need to be going back and forth with you about what you think about me. I need to go be over here trying to improve my game and improve myself. But our mental can sometimes get caught up in that, which allows us to get unfocused over here. And we need all our mental over here.
Definitely. Now, when you think about athletes back in the day compared to athletes now, what is the biggest difference between both of them? Do you think
Whew,
with the
good
game
question.
is it because the game has gone a little bit, I guess, softer, or
Excuse me.
what do you think?
Just as in every several years, 10 years or so, the athlete gets more refined. The athlete does get bigger, stronger, and faster. The
Okay.
water gets more refined. The food gets better. Um, how we can produce things and how we can grow things, we advance as a civilization. We do, period. Right. Um, and then we have it, and then we have things that help us with these advancements, right? Like technology and all these other things, and the different types of things that a Vertimax, for instance. 20 years ago, I don't know if they were using a Vertimax.
Yeah,
You
or like
know,
the cells and
exactly.
yep.
Yeah.
Hmm.
So the athlete advances, as you can see, just like during the combine, guys are running. You have more guys running 4.2. You have more guys running 4.3. You got more bigger guys running 4.8s, 4.9s, five flats, stuff like that. So the athlete gets more refined. Now, in terms of the athleticism, it increases.
Hmm.
In terms of the fortitude, in terms of the functionality of being laser sharp, laser focused, that's been somewhat removed.
Stimulate.
Um, the testosterone in men and young men today has decreased, and
Hmm.
you could tell. You could
Yeah.
tell from some of the things that we see in the world, right? Some of the complaining that happens. You got this guy who's in the NHL talking about the NBA players and how they don't want to compete in the All-Star game. These are
Yep.
real things.
Yep.
Whereas back in the day when MJ and Kobe were going, you saw how Kobe was D'ing
Exactly.
guys up. You saw how Mike took things to heart.
Yep.
Okay. During my era, that's what we had. That's what we built ourselves off of. We didn't necessarily want to team up with the best guys. We wanted to go beat the best guys.
Yeah.
Nowadays, it's everybody's cool, everybody's a friend. We weren't friends, man.
Yeah.
We were friends, but when we came into battle, we were enemies until that ended, and then we got on with being cool with each other. So those things are different these days.
Way different. Way different, man.
Mhm.
Like, I think that was what PK. PK said that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Now your time with the Titans, you played with the Browns, you played with the Lions.
Mhm.
What can you say about each of the organizations that you played for? What are some of the similarities? What are some of the differences?
Well, I would have to say, of course, being in Tennessee was great, great weather. You're in the South, great living in Tennessee. The affordability, the schools, the cost of living is everything you would want it to be when you're doing something like that, right? Great family dynamic. You're in the South. It's the Bible. It's a Bible Belt state,
Yeah.
so you feel that energy. Good Southern home cooking food. So in Nashville, it's the country capital of the world. So you have things going on, you have things to do, and the fans love this, right? In Buffalo, you have, one of the coldest cities, of course, but the fan base is amazing.
Yeah.
You have Toronto probably an hour and a half away. You're 15 minutes from Canada. So it's a different section of the country that gives you a different spin on. It gives you a different spin. It's different. Not too many people that look like me there, but it's still a great place to be, and they have some of the best fans in the world. Just have to be honest. Detroit, one of the best cities, man. Detroit really gets a bad rap. Detroit really has wholesome people. Is a good gritty city. They love their sports teams. They're with them ride or die. Doesn't matter. We weren't winning when I was in Detroit, and they still supported us. They still showed up. They still gave us love. When we still got out in the community, they still welcomed us with open arms. I wasn't in Cleveland too long, but Cleveland's a little bit like Detroit. I didn't spend too much time with the organization, so I can't speak on it too much.
Okay.
But it was great that I played for these organizations. To this day, I still check up on the Titans, I still check up on the Bills, I still check up on Detroit and Cleveland, and just appreciate being a part of these organizations and seeing some of the success that they've had throughout the years as well.
Definitely. Now, when you talk about all these organizations and stuff, um, what is your favorite uniform? What do you, because again, you got look right, play right, like you gotta, and it's fine if you don't like
It's
the,
look good,
we're not,
play good, get
yeah,
paid good, get laid good.
there you
that's
go.
it.
Oh, man,
That's
there we
really
go.
what it was.
I'll write that on the
Yeah,
back.
yeah. That's a Dion quote. You know what I mean? I
There
think
we-
Dion started that one, so I'm taking that one from him. But it was nothing like the powder blues, and it was nothing like the powder Titan blue. It was
Mhm.
nothing like that. You know, the full like the Pollard jersey that you have in the background, with the powder blue pants. Those are unique colors. Pretty colors, and you could feel good about yourself when you had that on. You had to dress it up real nice.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, before
Mm.
I let you go, when you decided to leave football, when did you find like, hey, it's time to clean up, it's time to,
Well, unfortunately, I didn't leave on my terms. I left due to injuries piling up. I had two forearms back to back, that caused for major surgery that caused me to miss time on the field. And then when I got to Detroit, I had another surgery on a rotator cuff in my shoulder, and it was all on the same side of it was all on the same arm, all on my left side of my body. Um, so with injuries back to back to back years like that, I knew that it would be hard for me to continue to compete at a high level, due to some of the pain I was experiencing, and just due to not being able to be readily available like I needed to be during that course of time. I was right around 28, 29 years old, getting close to 30. And if you're not, really giving the organizations what they expect out of you, then they got to get rid of you and they got to get somebody younger.
yeah.
So at the time, it was a tough spot for me, leaving out of the game, being injured, not getting that full opportunity that I thought that I might have gotten. But today, I look at it differently on the business side because I'm like, if that was me and I saw myself on film and dealing with injuries, I probably would have cut myself too and got somebody younger as well. So you learn that later in life, and I'm okay with it now. During the time, it was a bad taste in my mouth. I
Yeah.
wanted to try to push to maybe a 8 to 10 year career. Didn't get there, got close. But all in all, I'm so grateful about my opportunity. I'm grateful about my opportunity to Wake Forest. That allowed me to be a blessing and have an opportunity in NFL. So I take that with me. I cherish those moments. I met some great people along the way. I've built some great relationships. My foundation and things that I do now are still based off of what I've done through the NFL. So, there's so many resources and so many different networks that are still readily available for us. So I try to tap into those, and I try to just stay joyful and happy that I had a chance to have the experience and not be bitter, considering I didn't get to play as long as I wanted to.
Yeah, and regardless, I mean, a lot of people don't even get even touch a field. And like I said, you played with several teams, and every fan base probably loves you that you played, Bills, the Titans or the Lions. I mean, we still, like I said, you wear the two-tone blue, man, you're gonna be a two-tone for life, regardless. I don't care if you play 1 year, 2 years, you're still a Titan, man. So
Well, I really appreciate that when that's coming from Mr. Titan himself.
so yeah, man, I appreciate it. What are you doing now? And like you said, I don't know if you're coaching anymore, but talk to me a little bit about what Eric King is doing right now.
Well, officially, I'm a project manager.
Okay.
So I oversee different real estate projects, and we're actually converting single family into multifamily, in the real estate realm. So I do that here in the LA area in California. I also train kids, specifically DBs. Specifically, I try to work in the short area quickness. Um,
Mhm.
um, the speed department, as well as just officially coaching as well. I've coached several years at Calabasas High School. I've coached several years with Antonio Pierce down at Long Beach Poly. So having my hand in the game in terms of coaching, is what I have to do because I have to give back to the game.
Yeah.
But my main play and what I'm building out now is my portfolio, being a project manager, helping others with their homes and development, as well as trying to develop some of the ones that I have now. So that's
Yeah.
kind of what I do.
Awesome, awesome. That's good to hear that, not only that, you're still giving back to the game, regardless.
Have to.
And that's amazing. I love it. Uh,
Yep.
like I said, Eric, I want to first and foremost thank you so much for coming on and talking to me and sharing your stories. And like I said, once you wear the two-tone blue, regardless of how many years you're still a Titan for life, man. And we appreciate, all the hard work, your blood, sweat, and tears and everything. And I just want to personally say thank you for everything, man.
I appreciate you, man. I appreciate you having me on the show.
Yeah, no problem, man. God bless and tighten up, man.
Tighten up.